Hey everyone, welcome to Data Cleaning and Transformation. This is part 1, selecting the correct columns. So we started a new portion of the course and opened up notebook number 3 and starting from the top. So this first code block, what I'm going to do is import pandas, and then I'm actually going to change the number of columns that are displayed when you output a data frame in the Jupyter Notebook, because there are many columns in these data frames and I want to see more of them. We're then going to import this run function from the solutions module. And this is the same run function that we just did in the previous notebook that gets all of our data, all of our local data that we've already downloaded, and returns a dictionary of those 4 data frames. So I'm going to go ahead and call this code block, which we'll call the run function, and then place our data in this data dictionary right here. And then I'm going to output the world cases data frame. So just got that. So this is what the world cases data frame looks like. And here are the USA cases. Now in this video, what we're going to do is we're just going to select the appropriate columns to do data analysis. And the way we're going to do this is we're just going to select one column that will uniquely label each row. So for the world, that's going to be the country region. And then we're going to select all of the date columns. So starting from 122 onwards. For the USA data frame, we're going to select the province underscore state column, and then all of the date columns as well. Okay, so that's what this exercise says right here. You can read through it, but it's saying exactly that. Now, in this exercise, we're not going to be given the group name, so I won't know if it's USA or if it's world. We'll have to think of a sort of an intelligent way of selecting the columns. So this is what I'm going to show you is just a way of using the columns attribute of pandas, which has its own methods. And so to do that, what I'm going to do is, just to show you how this works, is that I will select the data frame number 1 itself, and then I'm going to create a variable that just has the columns. So let me just show you that. So calls is going to be assigned to the columns, and I'll show you how I am doing this problem. There are multiple ways to do these exercises, of course, but I'm going to show you one way. Let's back up a second and look at the differences between the world and the USA data frames. They are not identical with respect to their columns. So the USA has a few more columns than the world. We're not going to worry about them at the moment. We just want to select that one column that uniquely identifies each area and then all of the dates. So that's the only thing we're really concerned about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list that contains the columns I want, or the single column that I want from each one. So columns, they have this method called isIn, and what it'll do is it'll check every single column to determine if it's in the list that you provided. So in this case, I'm looking at the world data frame and its columns. That's this calls, that's what this is. And I'm going to check whether or not each column name equals one of these two values. And there's only one, and that's this country/region over here, and it's the second column, and you can see that the second value over here is true. So that's how I'm going to determine if I have the correct, or where the correct column is for that particular data frame is with this isIn. And what I'll do is I will just call it I'll label it as a filter. That's what I'm going to call this variable name. So I'm going to store that over there. Now the second thing I need to do is I need to grab all of these dates. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to check to see if there are 2 forward slashes in them. All right, so these are the only column names that have 2 forward slashes, and they've been read in as strings. So columns, and you may not be aware of this, have a string accessor, just like data frame, or just like series do in pandas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count the number of forward slashes. And when I do this, you can see that this is just returning the count, what I want is I want only the columns such that there are 2 forward slashes. And this will be what I'm going to label as filt2. And you can see that they start becoming true over here on the 5th column. That's where the first date is. Now, so let me just execute that. And then my final filter will be a combination between filt1 and filt2. So what I'm going to do is a vectorized OR operation here between these two sequences of Booleans, right? So it's going to line them up. It's going to test whether it's one of these labels or whether it has 2 forward slashes. So the final filter will be this, and you can see that a true value here is where the country region is, and then the other trues are for the dates. And the final thing to do is actually filter it, and I'm going to use the loc indexer, which allows me to filter for rows and columns. So I'm going to pass the this is filtering for the columns that I want, and this will get me exactly what I want over here. So it's just going to give me a single name that identifies each row, and then just the dates. Okay, so this will work the same for the USA data frame. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to copy and paste this code over here. Now, so what's happening here is that I'm only getting passed in a single data frame. So I'm not going to select anything like this. So I'm going to get rid of that. There's no WC, it's just DF. And I will filter like this. Everything else should be the same. So again, let me explain it. I'm going to get the columns from the past data frame. I'm going to just create a list of the labels I want. Now, only one of these labels is in each data frame, but since they're both not in the same data frame, I don't have to worry about pulling too many columns. I'm going to get that filter. So for these labels, that's filter 1. Then I'm going to do a different kind of filter to find the dates. I'm going to look for 2 forward slashes. And then I'm going to combine the filters with a vectorized OR operation. And then I'm going to finally use that filter in the loc indexer to just select the columns that I want. Okay, so, and what will happen is I'll give it, let's just do world deaths so it's a little bit different. I did not show these, but the deaths and the cases one for each group are the same in terms of their columns. So that works, and let's do USA deaths, and that looks like it is working as well. So it just basically removes all of the columns that are unnecessary for continuing on with the analysis. So we really just want the name of the area and then all of the dates. Okay, so that's it for selecting the correct columns. In the next video, we're going to see how to add it to our run function so that it's doing basically everything up to that point. That's what the run function does. Okay, I'll look forward to doing that in the very next video.